Hello, good morning all. I'm Professor Dr. Asifmkarim, the Dean of the Binary Graduate School at Binary University of Management and Entrepreneurship in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. So I'm here to present the 2 days paper at this international conference in Sydney. Though I tried my level best to fly down and do the presentation, but due to some activities at my school, at the graduate school, I really could not make myself available. I'm really thankful to the organizer at AABL who have taken my request to present this presentation and deliver it to you. Thank you very much, AABL, for the cooperation. Well, the title of my paper is The Relationship Among Ethical Style of Leadership and Moral Cognition in Facilities Management Service Provider in Oman, Knowledge Sharing Mediator, and Jim at Workplace as a Moderator. The paper is written by Khalfan Obaid Al-Shukri, PhD researcher at Binary University, myself, Professor Dr. Asifmkarim, and Assistant Professor Dr. Nadia Farhana from Stanford University in Bangladesh. So let's talk about the abstract of the paper. This paper examines the relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, knowledge sharing, and moral cognition in facilities management service providers in Oman. Additionally, this paper determines if the level of gymnasium at workplace moderates the effect of ethical style of leadership on moral cognition. The authors employed a questionnaire that utilized a set of questions which measure ethical style of leadership, level of gym at workplace, and knowledge sharing and moral cognition. The participants were 320 mid-level managers, engineers, and supervisors of facilities management service providers in Oman. The relationship between ethical style of leadership, knowledge sharing, level of gym at workplace, and moral cognition was determined by conducting the hierarchical multiple regression. The current research result indicated that ethical style of leadership was positively related to employees' knowledge sharing and moral cognition. Knowledge sharing mediated the relationship among ethical style of leadership and moral cognition. The finding helps to explain the relationship among ethical leadership and moral cognition. Finding also suggests that the ethical leaders may involve in role modeling by the extra provision of gym at workplace exercise to workforces. Introduction. The effect of ethical leadership of employees' moral cognition has found an extra here. There is an interesting to additional survey with regard of the relationship among ethical style of leadership as well as employee satisfaction in facilities management service providers in Oman. Social learning theory states that workers model themselves afterwards the ethical managers' leaders' behavior. The Jiong and Shin 2019 studies. The Jiong and Shin 2019 studies also reveals the modeling with regard of the observation, imitation, as well as the identification. Employees encouraged to learn through engagement and idea generating and ethical leaders via direct experience and other behavioral observation. There are many analyses by the employees of the ethical leaders' behavior according to Chan 2019 and Jiong Shin 2019. The driving moderators of the relationship among ethical style of the leadership behaviors and employee consequences were explored by various studies. For example, organizational tenure, the staff's experience, occupational context, and information sharing and cultural values. Gym and fun action at workplace encouragement the workplace engagement. The theories and hypotheses of the study: ethical style leadership and moral cognition. Research has highlighted the importance of ethical style of leadership to employees. Naeem et al. 2019 and Chan 2019. Ethical leaders share power, giving responsibility and autonomy to employees and thus motivating them. Ethical leaders involve employees in decision making and problem solving. Empowering an ethical style of leadership has been widely shown to enhance the effectiveness of management teams, as far as Demathieu and Schoschweber Jr. 2019. Researchers have shown that positive job belief and mood increase employees' moral cognition. Moral cognition refers to individuals' positive effective response to and attitude towards their job and workplace. It is a psychological state in which individuals feel that their needs are fulfilled at work. Ethical style leadership is positively associated with employees' moral cognition. This is the hypothesis number 1. According to social learning theory, employees with greater workplace engagement are more likely to be motivated by role modeling. As per Weiss and Morrison 2019 study says, employees observe and imitate their leaders. They are more likely to perform well if engaged by an ethical leaders. The relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership and the mediated knowledge in sharing. Ethical style of leadership behavior also affect the employee's moral cognition, with knowledge sharing again acting as a mediator. Hypothesis number 2, the knowledge sharing mediates the relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, moral cognition. Researchers investigating the impact of ethical style of leadership on employee outcome have obtained its consistent findings, which indicate that the relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, style work attitude is moderated by other condition boundaries, according to Weiss and Morrison 2019. The relationship among employees' effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, moral cognition is affected by the level of gym at workplace. Hypothesis number 3. The positive relationship among ethical style of leadership and knowledge sharing in addition to moral cognition are stronger when followers have more gym at work. Building on hypothesis number 3, the level of gym in the workplace may moderate the relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, knowledge sharing, and moral cognition. Ethical style of leadership is more likely to enhance employees' knowledge sharing and moral cognition when employees have more gym in the workplace. Hypothesis number 4. Knowledge sharing mediates the interactive effects of ethical style of leadership and gym in the workplace on employees' moral cognition. A research model to show the main theoretical essential instrument with the relationship among ethical style of leadership, employees' knowledge sharing and moral cognition, and gym at workplace indicates that ethical leadership has an impact on level of gym at the workplace, with knowledge sharing thereafter leading to the moral cognition part as far as the leadership pattern is concerned. The methodology of the paper. Sample and data collection. A total of 347 questionnaires were distributed among the staffs at different managerial level for 4 facilities management service providers in Oman. 320 employees responded to the questionnaire and 4 questionnaires were not filled up properly. However, 19 questionnaires were partially filled. Therefore, those 23 questionnaires were excluded from the final analysis of the study. By using the SPSS, the correlation and linear regression tests were applied to this data. In order to understand the characteristics of the respondents, some demographic information were also collected from the respondents. Employees were contacted at 3 different managerial levels, namely the managers, the engineers, and the supervisors. A total of 127 males and 134 females between the age of 20 to 46 years and or above participated in this study. In the following section, the main result of the study are reported. Ethical style of leadership, the independent variable. Knowledge sharing is the mediator. The level of GM at workplace is the moderator, where the moral cognition is the dependent variable. And employee gender, education level, the age, the tenure at the organization, the tenure of manager-employee diet, the control variables were measured in this paper. Ethical style of leadership was measured using a 5-point Likert scale, where 1 was strongly agreeing, then 5 was strongly disagree. So the scale, the 5-point was done Likert scale on this measurement. Similarly, the knowledge sharing was done also by using the 5-point Likert scale. The level of GM at workplace and the moral cognitions all were under the questionnaire of a 5-point Likert scale. The control variables were employees' gender, education, and age tenure at the organization, and tenure of the manager-employee diet. Those control variables were found to directly impact the influence of leadership and employees' attitude. Gender and education level were dummy coded as 0 and 1 for male and female, the primary and below as 1. Results. The preliminary analysis, the test of hypothesis. Hypothesis 1 predicted that ethical style of leadership would be positively associated with employees' moral cognition. After control variables were added, the ethical style of leadership was found to have a significantly positive impact on employees' moral cognition. So the beta was 0.42, which was P's value was less than 0.001. Therefore, hypothesis 1 was supported. Hypothesis 2 predicted that knowledge sharing mediates the relationship among the employees' effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, style moral cognition. The hierarchical multiple regression was conducted to test the mediation. Regression were conducted with the control variable to determine whether ethical style of leadership was related to employees' moral cognition. And it was seeing that here the beta figure was 0.37 and the p-value again is less than 0.0001, and the first requirement for mediation. Thus, the result of hypothesizing is showed to be impact. To fulfill the third requirement, the mediator, that is the knowledge sharing, was associated with the dependent variable, the moral cognition, and the dependent variable was regressed on both the independent variable and the mediator. Finally, for the perfect mediation to exist, the independent variable must shows no effect with the mediator is controlled. When mediator is controlled, therefore, the independent variable is entered into the regression equation. The effect of the mediator is significant, but the independent variable is not. This result revealed complete or partial mediation for the dependent variable. Discussion. This paper has examined the direct and indirect impact of ethical style of leadership on employees' knowledge sharing and moral cognition. Ethical style of leadership encourages the employees to engage with their working and feel satisfied with their working duties. Spectre 2019. Ethical style of leadership consequently tends to enhance the employees' knowledge sharing and moral cognition. This paper has demonstrated the significant moderating effect of the level of the GM in the workplace on the relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, style knowledge, and sharing moral cognition in the facilities management service provider in Sultanate of Oman. The result indicates that employees who have GM at workplace are more likely to be engaged at work. In summary, the ethical style of leadership has a highly important influence on the employee's knowledge sharing and moral cognition. The positive relationship among an employee's effectiveness due to ethical style of leadership, style knowledge sharing among ethical style of leadership and moral cognition are stronger when employees have a GM at work. Finally, the theoretical and the managerial implication of the study. The findings have two main theoretical implications. First, this paper extends the ethical style of leadership research literature by showing the ethical style of leadership enhances employees' knowledge sharing and moral cognition. Consistent with the literature, result indicated a positive relationship among ethical style of leadership and moral cognition. Ethical leader behavior may encourage employee to be positively interpret with leaders responses that influence the effect of ethical style of leadership on employees' moral cognition. The level of GIM at workplace helps to explain the impact of ethical style of leadership in enhancing the employees and moral cognition. Leaders should, in the ethical style, when managing their employees in a good working environment, employees are engaged and satisfied with the jobs. Managers who wish to engage employees at workplace may demonstrate ethical style of leadership behavior. Leaders should encourage GIM activities with employees to make them more comfortable in the workplace. The limitation and the future research. There are several limitations as a result were obtained and subject to common technique bias, variable rates with different perceptions to be introduced on future researches in facilities management service provider in Oman. Future studies can further examine the impact of the ethical style of leadership on knowledge sharing in public sector and consider other aspects such as power distance. Future researchers should further examine the diverse psychological mechanism and consequences of ethical style of leadership. Finally, this paper examined a potential moderating variable, the level of GIM at workplace. Other moderating variables such as cognitive or affective trust may enhance or buffer the impact of ethical style of leadership on moral cognition. Clearly, future research on how and why ethical style of leadership influence moral cognition is necessary. Well, that was the presentation on my co-authored paper with Khalfan Obaid al-Shukri on the relationship among ethical style of leadership and moral cognition in facilities management service providers in Oman, knowledge sharing mediator, and GIM at workplace moderator. So I let the questions open to the panel, and I should be very glad if the questions are sent for any clarification. The authors and the co-authors will attain to those questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to present at this Sydney International Conference organized by Australian Academy of Business Leadership. Thank you very much.